Hey guys, tonight we're taking a little historical detour, strapping on our virtual sandals and dropping you right into the fiery heart of ancient Rome. Forget what you think you know from Hollywood epics. No, Nero wasn't chilling with a lyre, strumming a catchy tune while his city became a giant BBQ pit. That's pure PR spin, a meme before memes were even a twinkle in a digital eye. Tonight, we're cutting through the myth, the propaganda, and the romanticized history to give you the raw, unvarnished, terrifying truth of what it actually felt like to be caught in the great fire of Rome. You weren't a general or an emperor. You were just you, an everyday Roman, trying to survive one of the most cataclysmic urban disasters the world had ever seen. We're talking 7 days and 6 nights of sheer, unadulterated hell. If you've ever wondered how you'd fare when your entire world ignites, stick around. But first, do me a solid, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already joined our dysfunctional historical family, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Now, dim the lights, maybe grab a fire extinguisher just in case, and settle in, because things are about to get really, really hot. Imagine, if you will, that it's the year 64 AD, late July. The air in Rome is thick, heavy, and smells like a potent cocktail of human endeavor and neglect. You're not in some marble palace, lounging on cushions, being fanned by enslaved people. No, your reality is far grittier. You live in an insula, one of those multi-story apartment blocks that are basically ancient Roman fire traps, stacked precariously on top of each other, like a game of Jenga played by a perpetually tipsy god. These aren't your modern, steel-reinforced high-rises. Oh no, these are ramshackle constructions of timber, sun-baked mudbrick, and whatever else could be scavenged to pile another story on. They lean against each other, sharing walls, sharing drafts, sharing, crucially, an astonishing capacity to incinerate. You are, in essence, living inside a giant urban bonfire waiting for a match. The streets below your window are not the grand, wide avenues you see in tourist brochures. They are serpentine, choked arteries, narrow enough that 2 donkeys pulling carts could barely pass, let alone a panicked throng. They are dark, even in the midday sun, shadowed by the towering insulae that loom over them, perpetually damp, in places from overflowing sewers, perpetually dusty in others from the endless churn of pedestrian and wheeled traffic. The ground beneath your feet, if you're brave enough to step out without a good pair of sandals, is a mix of uneven cobblestones, compacted earth, and whatever refuse happens to have been thrown from upper windows. There are no sanitation departments, no orderly waste disposal. It's a free-for-all. The smells are an assault. The pungent tang of human waste from overflowing latrines and the occasional unemptied chamber pot mingling with the sweet, cloying odor of rotting fruit from a street vendor's stall. The acrid bite of wood smoke from countless cooking fires. The greasy aroma of a baker's oven. The sweat of 1,000 unwashed bodies. The metallic tang of blood from a butcher's stall. And something indefinable, an underlying musk that is just Rome. It's a sensory overload, a constant hum of life, a cacophony of shouting vendors, squawking chickens, barking dogs, the creak of cartwheels, the babble of Latin, Greek, and a dozen other tongues. This is your world. This is what you breathe, hear, see, and taste every single day. You're tired. The Roman summer days are long and brutal, and even after the sun dips below the horizon, the city radiates heat, like a colossal brick oven that refuses to cool down. Perhaps you've spent the day toiling in the forum, perhaps selling wares in the market, maybe just trying to keep your apartment, a single cramped room shared with your family, from becoming an oven itself. As night falls, the flickering oil lamps, the open braziers for cooking, the hearths, all become more prominent, little pinpricks of light in the growing darkness. These are your light sources, your heat sources, your constant, low-level threat. Fire is a tool, a friend, but also a capricious, omnipresent enemy in this wooden, crowded metropolis. Every evening, you offer a quiet prayer to the household gods, the lyres and penates, hoping they'll keep your flimsy dwelling intact, that no stray spark will leap, that no drunk neighbor will knock over a lamp. It's a prayer you offer every night, so ingrained it's almost automatic, a whisper against the inherent fragility of your existence. This particular night, you're trying to sleep, but it's a restless affair. The air is still and oppressive. The sounds of the city haven't entirely quieted. There's always a distant shout, a dog howling at the moon, the rumble of a late-night cart. You might hear the muffled sounds of your neighbors, the soft murmur of their conversations, the creak of their bed frames. You're acutely aware of the thinness of the walls, the flimsiness of the ceiling above you, the proximity of so many other lives packed into this one towering structure. It's claustrophobic, but it's also home. You drift in and out of consciousness, caught in that liminal space between waking and dreaming, when suddenly a different smell cuts through the usual Roman cocktail. It's subtle at first, a faint, almost sweet, but undeniably chemical scent. Not wood smoke from a cooking fire, not the acrid tang of a forge. This is something else. It prickles at the back of your throat, a metallic edge to it that makes your nostrils flare. You stir, your eyes blinking open in the near-total darkness of your room, illuminated only by the anemic glow of the moon filtering through a grimy, unglazed window. You dismiss it at first. A neighbor's lamp overturned, perhaps. A small, contained incident. It happens. But then, a sound, a faint crackling, like dry kindling being crushed underfoot, growing in intensity, almost a whisper, then a hiss. Your heart gives a sudden, unpleasant lurch in your chest. That's not a neighbor's lamp. That's too close, too pervasive. You push yourself up, the rough wool blanket falling away, your bare feet hitting the cool, gritty floor. You move to the window, peering out, and then you see it. Just a flicker at first, a malevolent orange tongue dancing in the gloom. Several blocks away, but undeniably there at the Circus Maximus, a building, probably one of the many rickety stalls lining the perimeter, has caught fire. It's not a small flicker anymore. It's already a hungry, grasping hand. The initial thought is a dull dread. Not again. Fires are a common occurrence in Rome. They are an expected part of life, a seasonal hazard, like the summer heat itself. Most are contained. Most burn themselves out after consuming a single building or a block. But there's something about this one. It's moving too fast. The wind, which had been a gentle whisper all day, seems to pick up, carrying not just the smell now, but faint, dark wisps of smoke towards you. Panic, cold and sharp, begins to prickle at the edges of your carefully constructed Roman stoicism. That crackling sound is no longer distant. It's rising, a chorus of hungry wood and thatch. The orange glow is intensifying, painting the underbellies of the low-hanging clouds a sickly, lurid red. You can hear shouts now, distant at first, then closer, growing in urgency and volume. Not just the usual Roman shouts of commerce or argument, but the raw, primal screams of alarm, of terror. You push the thought away, trying to convince yourself it's just another fire. You tell yourself to go back to bed, that the vigiles, Rome's firefighters, bless their understaffed, overworked souls, will handle it. But even as you try to rationalize, your instincts scream a different truth. You can almost feel the city holding its breath. The usual nocturnal sounds of Rome are being swiftly swallowed by something else. Something monstrous. The air outside is suddenly hotter, even from your small window. The distant orange flicker has now bloomed into a roaring, undulating curtain of flame licking at the night sky. The sheer velocity of it is terrifying. Rome isn't just a city of timber and mud. It's a colossal, dry bundle of kindling, riddled with narrow, air-conditioned passages that act like chimneys, ready to funnel a blaze with terrifying efficiency. The open flames from cooking, the oil lamps, the vast stores of highly flammable goods, olive oil, wax, cloth, dried timber, stored in every corner, every shop, every basement. It's all just fuel. You realize with a sickening lurch that your insula is surrounded by thousands of other similar structures, all equally ready to ignite. The shouts outside are no longer distant. They are right below your window, a rising tide of frantic voices. You hear the thud of running feet, the urgent cries of neighbors, the frantic braying of donkeys, the terrified squeals of pigs. You scramble to pull on your simple tunic, your fingers fumbling with the fabric. Your family stirs, groggily at first, then with dawning horror as the sounds and smells infiltrate their dreams. Your child whimpers. Your spouse's eyes, wide with fear, meet yours in the gloom, reflecting the growing red glow from outside. There's an unspoken question, a primal terror, in that look. What do we do? The decision, when it comes, is not a conscious thought but an instinct. You have to get out, now. The city is a giant oven, and the heat is already seeping into your building, through the walls, through the very air. The crackling is no longer just a hiss. It's a ravenous roar, a living, breathing entity outside. The air quality in your small room is suddenly poorer, heavy with a new, unpleasant tang. The taste of burning wood, yes, but also something else. Something metallic and acrid, like the city itself is beginning to melt. You snatch up your child, your spouse grabbing a small, precious wooden box containing a few coins and a family heirloom. There's no time for anything else, no time to grieve the possessions you're leaving behind. Your life, your very existence, has suddenly been pared down to the most brutal, essential truth: survival. Get out. Don't look back. The thought is a desperate prayer, a frantic command. You are no longer a citizen of Rome. You are simply a creature fleeing a predator, an ember trying to escape the inferno before it's consumed. This isn't just a fire. This is the city itself, turning on its inhabitants, a monstrous beast breathing fire. And you, my friend, are trapped in its belly. The moment you burst from the relative, claustrophobic safety of your apartment building and spill out into the street, the full, visceral horror of the unleashed inferno slams into you like a physical blow. The air isn't just hot, it's a suffocating blanket of searing heat that instantly pricks at your exposed skin, making you gasp. It's a furnace blast, a dragon's breath, and you're suddenly standing in its immediate vicinity. The sky above is no longer dark. It's a terrifying canvas of churning, angry reds and oranges, backlit by the colossal flames that are devouring everything in their path. The roar, and it is a roar, a deep, guttural, all-consuming sound, is deafening. It's the sound of 1,000 hungry mouths chewing on timber, of plaster crumbling, of tiles shattering, of a city being torn apart by an invisible, ravenous monster. It's punctuated by the terrifying whoosh of gases igniting, the sharp crack of snapping beams, and the sickening groan of entire structures collapsing into themselves, sending geysers of sparks and embers into the smoke-choked air. Smoke. Oh, the smoke. It's everywhere. It isn't just a hazy veil. It's a thick, noxious fog that claws at your throat, searing your lungs with every desperate, shallow gasp. It tastes of burning wood, yes, but also of burning cloth, burning pitch, burning everything. It stings your eyes, making them water, uncontrollably, blurring your vision to a desperate, tear-streaked blur of chaos. You try to pull the edge of your tunic up over your mouth and nose, but it offers little protection against the sheer volume and toxicity of the fumes. Your chest burns, your throat feels raw. and a desperate, primal urge to simply breathe overwhelms every other sensation. Each breath feels like swallowing hot coals, a torturous act that your body demands but rebels against. The street, which was a moment ago just a narrow passage, is now a swirling vortex of utter pandemonium. It's an ant-hill kicked over, but the ants are screaming, burning, and trampling. Thousands of people, your neighbours, strangers, all pouring out of their own flimsy insula, their faces etched with the same raw terror that you know is mirrored on yours. They are a river of humanity, a panicked, jostling, desperate tide flowing in every direction, yet paradoxically, mostly in no coherent direction at all. The very concept of order, of Roman law, of social hierarchy, has dissolved into a primal scramble for survival. You are no longer a patrician or a plebeian. You are just another fleeing animal, trying to stay ahead of the encroaching wall of fire. You clutch your child tighter, their small face buried against your shoulder. Their muffled sobs a tiny, fragile sound against the overwhelming roar of the fire. Your spouse is right beside you, their hand gripping your arm with a desperate bone-crushing strength, a tether in the madness. You try to move, to push through the mass of bodies, but it's like trying to swim upstream in a raging torrent. Every step is a battle, a jostle, a near fall. The heat is unbearable, radiating from the very air, from the cobblestones under your feet that are becoming impossibly hot, from the nearby buildings that are already crackling and spitting sparks. You can feel the hairs on your arms singe, the exposed skin on your face feeling like it's being slowly roasted. Your mind, despite the sensory assault, is a frantic kaleidoscope of fragmented thoughts. Boy, where do we go? Which way is safe? Is any way safe? The fire, you quickly realize, isn't just consuming buildings in a neat line. It's leaping, it's skipping, it's being carried by the unpredictable winds. A shower of embers, like 1,000 miniature, malevolent stars, might descend from the smoke-choked sky, landing on a dry awning, a stack of wooden crates, a patch of dry thatch, and suddenly, another structure bursts into flame, cutting off an escape route, forcing the panicked crowd to veer violently in another direction. The city is a patchwork of explosions, a landscape of sudden localized infernos that seem to spring up out of nowhere, trapping pockets of desperate people. You see sights that will forever be burned into your memory, searing themselves into your terrified brain. A mother, her hair aflame, screaming for a child she can't find in the smoke. An old man, collapsing under the press of the crowd, his pleas for help swallowed by the roar of the fire and the indifferent, desperate rush of fleeing bodies. Animals, dogs, cats, even the occasional terrified horse, bolting blindly through the streets, their eyes wide with terror, some catching fire themselves, becoming grotesque, screaming torches. Buildings, once proud and solid, now collapsing in slow motion. A ballet of destruction, sending plumes of smoke and dust skyward, and with them, the terrifying cries of those who were trapped inside. The air is filled with the reek of burning wood, yes, but increasingly with the horrifying, sickening smell of burning flesh, a smell that will haunt your nightmares for years to come. You push forward, driven by a primal, desperate will to survive. Logic has abandoned you. You are operating purely on instinct. Your legs ache, your lungs burn, your heart pounds a frantic drum solo against your ribs. You stumble over debris, over fallen people, over the uneven paving stones. Each step is a struggle, a fight against the tide, against the heat, against the sheer exhaustion that threatens to claim you. You move with a tunnel vision, focused only on the next few feet, on keeping your child safe, on staying connected to your spouse. The heat is so intense that you can feel it through the soles of your sandals, through the thin fabric of your tunic. It's an all-encompassing oppressive weight, pushing you down, threatening to cook you alive. A nearby insula, directly in your path, suddenly groans, a terrifying sound of timber protesting against the fire's relentless assault. A shower of sparks erupts from its upper stories, followed by a shower of roof tiles crashing onto the street with bone-jarring force. The crowd screams, recoiling, a wave of humanity slamming into those behind it. You're pushed back, almost, losing your footing. For a terrifying moment, you're separated from your spouse, your hand losing their grip. Panic, pure and unadulterated, shoots through you. You twist, desperate, your eyes scanning the smoke-filled maelstrom, calling out their name, but your voice is a feeble squeak against the roar of the fire. Then, their hand is there, grabbing yours again, a lifeline in the chaos. The relief is so profound, it almost makes your knees buckle. That momentary separation felt like an eternity, a glimpse into the ultimate terrifying solitude of individual death in this mass calamity. You realize you're not just fleeing from the fire, you're also fleeing from the crowd itself. The desperate struggle for survival has turned many into ruthless, unthinking animals. There are shoves, kicks, a desperate scramble to push ahead, to gain even an inch of ground. You see people fall and not rise again, simply swallowed by the relentless forward surge of bodies. There is no time for pity, no time for help. It's a brutal Darwinian scramble, and you are just another participant. You grit your teeth, pushing, shoving, protecting your child with your body, your sole focus on keeping moving, on finding a way out of this hellish, burning maze. You are running for your life, your lungs burning, your legs screaming, the roar of the fire a constant, terrifying symphony of destruction in your ears. This isn't just a race, it's a frantic, desperate scramble against a dragon's breath, and the dragon, my friend, is gaining on you. The initial shock and terror begin to calcify into a grim, exhausting determination as you are swept along in the human tide. It's no longer a sprint, it's a relentless, desperate shuffle through a city rapidly being consumed. You are part of a vast, despairing river of humanity, funneled by the fire itself, pushed by the sheer weight of bodies behind you, and pulled by the instinct to find any shred of safety ahead. The streets, already narrow and labyrinthine, have become choke points of desperation. Every alleyway, every intersection is a bottleneck where the flow of people slows to a terrifying crawl, or worse, halts entirely. Here, the panic reaches a fever pitch. Trapped between the encroaching flames and an immovable wall of bodies, people scream, push, claw. You can feel the immense pressure of the crowd, a physical force that threatens to crush you, to separate you from your loved ones. You become acutely aware of the vulnerability of your body, the fragility of life in this crushing, suffocating press. Your clothes are damp with sweat and the stinging moisture from your smoke-irritated eyes. Your skin feels raw from the heat, and your lungs ache with every shallow breath. The sound of the fire, though still a monstrous roar, is occasionally punctuated by the chilling screams of those trapped in buildings that suddenly give way, or the desperate guttural cries of people being trampled in the crush. It's a symphony of hell, a constant reminder of the razor's edge you are treading. You keep your head down, focusing on the uneven ground, trying not to trip, trying to keep your child held tightly, trying to maintain that vital physical connection with your spouse. Your vision is still blurry, but you can discern the shapes of people around you. Faces streaked with soot and tears, eyes wide with a shared primal terror. Some are carrying what little they could grab, a small chest, a bundle of cloth, a terrified pet clutched to their chest. Most, like you, have nothing but the clothes on their backs and the burning desire to survive. As you push through the streets, the air around you grows increasingly thick with particulate matter, not just smoke and ash, but fragments of burning wood, dust from collapsing buildings, and a fine, gritty layer that settles on your hair, your clothes, your exposed skin. It gets into your mouth, your nose, your eyes. You cough, a dry, racking cough that tears at your already raw throat. Your thirst is becoming an unbearable torment. The heat, the exertion, the smoke, all conspire to drain every drop of moisture from your body. You crave water, a single sip, anything to soothe the fire in your throat and the dryness in your mouth. But there is no water. The city's fountains are either dry, too far away, or simply inaccessible through the burning chaos. The very idea of clean water seems like a forgotten luxury, a distant dream from another life. You pass scenes of unimaginable horror, families huddled together, overcome by smoke, their bodies silent testimony to the inferno's swift cruelty. Looters, shockingly, are already at work in some areas, preying on the abandoned homes or even the fallen bodies, their grim work illuminated by the very flames that threaten to consume them. It's a stark illustration of humanity's dual nature. The instinct to preserve and the instinct to prey, both laid bare in the crucible of disaster. You avert your eyes, pushing a desperate, futile prayer to whatever gods are listening, hoping you won't become another victim, either of the fire or of human depravity. Yet, amidst this overwhelming desolation, you also witness fleeting, powerful acts of human kindness. A stranger reaching out to steady an elderly woman who stumbles. A man sharing a precious tiny sip of water from a cracked clay jug with a crying child. A neighbor, recognizing your family, offers a word of encouragement, a shared glance of solidarity that cuts through the terror. These are tiny, fragile sparks of light in the vast, consuming darkness. Momentary reminders that not all hope, not all humanity, has been extinguished. They are small miracles, quickly overshadowed by the relentless horror, but they linger, offering a glimmer of resilience. You cling to these moments, to the warmth of your spouse's hand, to the fragile weight of your child in your arms. These connections are your anchors in the maelstrom, the only thing that gives purpose to your desperate scramble. The direction of your flight is largely dictated by the fire itself. You flee areas where the flames have established a beachhead, only to find another street that seemed safe suddenly engulfed as the wind shifts, carrying embers like deadly confetti. You are constantly having to make split-second decisions, guided by instinct and the movement of the panicked crowds. Do you risk the narrower alley that might offer a quicker escape, but also a higher chance of being trapped? Or do you brave the more open street, where the heat is more intense, but the risk of being crushed is marginally lower? There are no good options, only less terrible ones. You find yourself pushing past burning carts, swerving around fallen debris, leaping over streams of molten pitch that ooze from compromised structures. The city is literally melting around you. You might catch a glimpse of the Vigiles, Rome's fire brigade, brave, but utterly overwhelmed. Their leather buckets of water are pitifully inadequate against this roaring beast. You see them trying to pull down buildings to create fire breaks, their axes striking futile blows against the relentless advance. Their desperation mirrors your own, amplifying the sense of hopelessness. If even the trained professionals are fighting a losing battle, what hope is there for you? The sun has long since set, plunging the city into a terrifying twilight of fire and smoke. The night is a swirling canvas of orange, red, and black. The air is so thick it feels like a physical presence, pressing down on you, making every breath a conscious, agonizing effort. Your child, mercifully, seems to have fallen into an exhausted, fretful sleep. Their small body, a dead weight in your aching arms. You can feel their hot, shallow breaths against your neck. You pray they remain unconscious, spared, for a little, while longer, from the full horror of this living nightmare. Your legs are screaming, your muscles burning with fatigue. Every part of you longs to stop, to collapse, to simply lie down and surrender to the exhaustion. But the image of the flames, the roar of the fire, the sheer primal terror of being consumed propels you forward. You are an automaton, a machine, driven by the most basic instinct for survival. You no longer think about your home, your possessions, your past life. There is only the present moment, one foot in front of the other, one breath after another, one desperate step away from the hungry, devouring flames that threaten to swallow you whole. The desperation is a palpable thing, a shared burden that unites the thousands of fleeing Romans in a grim, silent communion. You are a single cell in this vast, writhing organism of flight, hoping against all odds to make it to the edge of the inferno, to find some meager sanctuary from the wrath of the burning city. After what feels like an eternity, a lifetime of relentless flight through the burning labyrinth, a new sound begins to penetrate the ceaseless roar of the fire. It's a different kind of murmur, a softer, more fluid sound, like a giant sigh of relief. It's the murmur of water, the Tiber River. The realization hits you like a revelation, a sudden dizzying jolt of hope in the suffocating despair. The river, a natural firebreak, a colossal body of water that the flames, however ravenous, surely cannot cross. This is your escape route, your salvation, the promised land in this burning hell. You push harder, your legs finding a sudden, unexpected surge of energy, fueled by this potent new hope. The human tide around you seems to have caught the same scent of salvation, and the movement intensifies, becoming a frantic, desperate surge towards the perceived safety of the riverbank. You can feel the air around you, though still thick with smoke and hot, becoming slightly less oppressive. The immediate searing blast of heat diminishes, replaced by a humid warmth. The inferno, still a terrifying presence behind you, feels a fraction more distant. Then, you see it. Through a momentary break in the smoke, or perhaps just a trick of your tear-filled eyes, you catch a glimpse of the water. Not the shimmering, serene blue of paintings, but a dark, churning ribbon, reflecting the hellish glow of the burning city like a mirror to the apocalypse. The river, too, is a terrifying spectacle, not a calm sanctuary. It's a dark, oily mass, reflecting the angry orange and red of the sky, shimmering with the impossible heat. Embers, like fiery rain, float down onto its surface, hissing and dying in puffs of steam. The banks are teeming with people, thousands upon thousands, a desperate, huddled mass pressed against the water's edge. This isn't just a glimmer of hope, it's a desperate final stand. Reaching the river's edge is another battle. The banks are steep and treacherous in places, made even more so by the frantic crush of bodies. You are pushed, shoved, nearly losing your footing on the slick, muddy ground. The sheer volume of people trying to access the water is astounding. They are fighting for space, for a chance to dip a hand, a face, to simply cool their burning skin. The water itself, though a source of relief, is also a site of peril. People are falling in, some deliberately to escape the heat, others accidentally, knocked over by the crush. You see hands reaching out, struggling, then disappearing beneath the dark surface. The river, once a giver of life, has become a graveyard for many, a final watery embrace for those too weak or too unlucky to find a footing. You manage to find a small, relatively clear spot, close enough to the water's edge to feel its cool, damp breath against your scorched skin. The relief is immediate, profound, a primal sigh of your entire being. You plunge your hands into the dark water, splashing it onto your face, your neck, your burning arms. The sensation is exquisite, an icy balm against the raw heat. Your child stirs, whimpering, and you let them dip their small hands into the cool water too, letting the shock calm their fright. Your spouse, too, takes a long, desperate drink, unmindful of the debris, the ash, or whatever else might be floating. in the churning current. The sheer, unadulterated pleasure of a simple sip of water, dirty as it may be, is an act of pure, essential survival. But the relief is fleeting, overshadowed by the realization that you are not truly safe. You are merely on the edge of the inferno, not out of it. The heat, though less intense than in the heart of the burning streets, is still palpable. The air, though slightly clearer, is still thick with smoke, carrying the acrid, metallic tang of burning buildings and that sickening, horrifying smell of roasting flesh. The roar of the fire is still a constant presence, a monstrous backdrop to the despairing murmur of the crowd. The flames, a towering, undulating wall of destruction, stretch as far as the eye can see, painting the entire horizon in shades of terrifying red and orange. The city is a colossal, blazing pyre, and you are merely a refugee at its feet. You huddle with your family, pressed against strangers, all sharing a common, desperate vigil. The sheer scale of the disaster begins to sink in. This isn't just your neighborhood burning. This is the very heart of Rome, the imperial city itself being consumed. Your home, your livelihood, your entire world. It's all gone, or soon will be. The realization is a heavy, crushing weight, even amidst the immediate imperative of survival. What will be left? Where will you go? These are questions for later, for a time when the immediate threat of incineration has passed. For now there is only the river, the fire, and the desperate hope that you will survive the night. The hours at the river's edge stretch on, an interminable succession of terror and exhaustion. The sky above remains a hellish canvas of fire. The sounds are a constant loop, the roar of the fire, the distant crashes of collapsing buildings, the cries of the injured, the desperate whispers of prayers, the sobs of the bereaved. You try to keep your child warm, protected from the cold dampness of the riverbank, despite the oppressive heat from the city. You watch, mesmerized and horrified, as the flames seem to defy logic, leaping across narrower sections of the river, carried by gusts of wind, starting new, smaller fires on the opposite bank. The natural firebreak is not as absolute as you had hoped. Boats, usually used for commerce, become vessels of desperate hope and, for many, tragic doom. Small skiffs, barges, anything that floats, are overloaded with desperate refugees. Some, capsizing under the weight, sending their screaming cargo into the dark, unforgiving waters. You see others, recognizing the inherent danger, simply wading into the shallows, standing hip-deep in the Tiber for hours, hoping the water will protect them from the embers and the searing heat that washes over the banks. The river, usually, a source of commerce and connection, has become a final, desperate line of defense, a temporary, dangerous refuge. You spend the night in a state of hyper-alert exhaustion, your senses on overdrive, your body aching, your mind a whirling vortex of fear and adrenaline. Every shift in the wind, every new surge of flames, every distant scream sends a fresh wave of panic through the huddled masses. You crave sleep, true sleep, but it is an impossible luxury. You cling to your family, a small, fragile island of warmth and connection in a sea of cold terror. The fire continues its relentless march, illuminating the sheer desolation of what was once the most magnificent city in the world. The hope that brought you to the river's edge is now tempered by the chilling realization that this is not an end to your suffering, but merely a pause, a temporary reprieve. The survival of this night, of this inferno, is far from assured. The river, for all its promise, is also another trap, holding you captive as the beast of fire continues its terrible, consuming feast. The dawn, when it finally arrives, is not the usual gentle awakening of a Roman day. It's a muted, apocalyptic grey, struggling to penetrate the thick, greasy pall of smoke that hangs over the city like a suffocating shroud. The monstrous roar of the fire, which had been a constant, terrifying symphony for days, has finally, mercifully, begun to subside. It's not gone entirely. You can still hear distant crackles, the occasional groan of a still smouldering beam, the hiss of steam as a final ember dies. But the overwhelming, all-consuming din has been replaced by an eerie, profound silence. A silence that is almost more terrifying than the roar, for it signifies the end of one nightmare and the beginning of an entirely new, equally daunting one. As the light slowly strengthens, painting the smoke-filled sky in unsettling shades of ochre and charcoal, you begin to emerge from your huddled vigil by the Tiber. Your body aches in every joint, every muscle screaming in protest. Your eyes are raw and red-rimmed. Your throat feels like sandpaper, and every breath still tastes of ash and sorrow. You are covered in a fine, gritty layer of soot and dust, your clothes torn and singed, your hair matted. You look around at the other survivors, and their faces mirror your own exhaustion, your own hollow-eyed despair. They are ghosts, barely recognizable, moving with a dazed, disbelieving slowness. The journey back into what was Rome is a pilgrimage through a landscape of utter desolation. It's a ghost city, a testament to the fire's ruthless efficiency. Where proud buildings once stood, there are now only smoking, blackened skeletons. Walls, still standing in some places, are charred and crumbling, gaping holes revealing the empty, ruined interiors. The grand facades, the vibrant market stalls, the familiar landmarks that once defined your world. They are gone, reduced to mounds of rubble and twisted metal. It's like a colossal beast has stomped through the city, leaving nothing but ruin in its wake. The sheer scale of destruction is almost incomprehensible, an abstract horror that defies your mind's ability to fully grasp it. The smell is overwhelming. The acrid tang of burnt wood and ash is still dominant, but it's now mingled with the horrifying, cloying sweetness of decay. The fire might have consumed much, but it couldn't erase all traces of life. The bodies are still there, scattered amidst the rubble, human, animal, frozen in their final moments of terror or collapse. You avert your gaze, trying not to look too closely, trying to shield your child's eyes from the gruesome reality. But the smell is inescapable, clinging to the air, to your clothes, to your very soul. It's the smell of death, of extinguished life, of a city brought to its knees. You walk slowly, cautiously, navigating through a treacherous landscape of hotspots, precarious piles of debris, and unseen hazards. The ground is a treacherous mix of shattered tiles, fallen beams, and fine powdery ash that coats everything in a uniform blanket of grey. Every step is a careful calculation, a risk, of falling, of stepping on something still smouldering, of sinking into an unseen pit. The silence is broken only by the crunch of your feet on the debris, the occasional creak of a cooling ruin, or the distant, mournful wail of another survivor searching for lost loved ones. It's a silence that is heavier, more profound than any you have ever known, punctuated by the faint, disembodied cries of heartbreak. You find yourself drawn inexorably towards where your home once stood. It's a morbid curiosity, a desperate need for closure, for some tangible proof of what has been lost. As you approach your neighborhood, the devastation becomes even more personal. The street that was once bustling with life, filled with the vibrant sounds of commerce and chatter, is now nothing but a desolate canyon of ruin. The towering insulae, which had once loomed over the street, are now collapsed inwards, their internal structures a tangled mess of charred beams and blackened masonry. You try to pinpoint where your building was, but the landscape is so utterly transformed that it's almost impossible. Landmarks are gone, street signs obliterated, the very geography of your life erased. Then, Through the haze of despair, you see it. A fragment, a piece of pottery, a familiar pattern poking out from beneath a pile of rubble. It's a shard from a bowl you owned, a small, insignificant item that now feels like a profound artifact, a whisper from a life that has vanished. You pick it up, your fingers tracing the familiar glaze, and a wave of emotion, raw and overwhelming, washes over you. It's not just the loss of possessions, it's the loss of your history, your routine, your sense of place in the world. It's the profound grief for a life that was, shattered and consumed in a matter of days. Your child, noticing your stillness, looks up at you with wide, questioning eyes, sensing the immense sorrow that radiates from you. Your spouse places a comforting, if weary, hand on your shoulder. The immediate challenges of survival are starkly apparent. There is no clean water. What few fountains remain are either dry or contaminated. Food, already scarce in a city dependent on constant supply, is now almost non-existent. The shops, the bakeries, the taverns, all gone. Shelter is a luxury. Thousands, like you, are now homeless, refugees in their own city. The air is still unhealthy to breathe, a constant irritant to your lungs. Disease, you realize with a fresh wave of dread, will be the next enemy, lurking in the putrid water and unburied dead. The city, though silent, is still active in a gruesome way. Scavengers, both human and animal, pick through the ruins. Dogs, feral and desperate, roam the devastated streets, their barks echoing eerily in the silence. You see other survivors, like you, wandering aimlessly, their faces etched with a shared, silent grief, searching for some sign of life, some fragment of what was. Some are calling out names, their voices hoarse with exhaustion and despair, their pleas swallowed by the vast emptiness of the ruined city. For every joyous reunion, there are countless more moments of heartbreaking realization, of finding nothing but ash where a loved one should be. The sheer, overwhelming emptiness of it all is soul-crushing. This was Rome, the eternal city, the heart of an empire. And now, it is a city of ghosts and ashes, a smoking monument to its own vulnerability. You stand there, amidst the ruins of your life, clutching your child, holding your spouse's hand. A survivor. But what kind of survival is this? What future can be built from such utter devastation? The immediate relief of escaping the fire is now replaced by a profound, existential dread. You have survived the inferno, but now you must survive the aftermath, the haunting silence, and the chilling reality of a world utterly undone. The days immediately following the inferno blur into a harrowing testament to human endurance. There's no time for proper mourning, no space for self-pity. Survival is still the dominant currency, the brutal, unrelenting reality that dictates every waking moment. You are one of hundreds of thousands of displaced persons, suddenly stripped of everything, existing in the open air, under a sky that still occasionally rains down fine, gritty ash. The relief of the fire's cessation quickly gives way to the gnawing anxiety of basic needs: food, water, and shelter. The immediate environs of the Tiber, once a temporary refuge, now become a vast makeshift refugee camp, filled with the murmurs of despair, the whimpers of hungry children, and the low hum of collective shock. The imperial response, initially, is a mix of chaos and crucial action. Emperor Nero, who had been away in Antium when the fire started, debunking that fiddle myth, again, folks, returns to a city in ruins. He opens his gardens, his private grounds, to the homeless, converting them into temporary shelters. Grain supplies are hastily arranged and distributed, and the price of corn, which had inevitably skyrocketed, is forced down. These are immediate, necessary measures, but they are a drop in the bucket compared to the colossal scale of the disaster. You, like countless others, are still reliant on scavenging, on the kindness of strangers, and on your own ingenuity to simply make it through each day. Water is still scarce, food rations are meager, and the fear of disease, now that so many people are living in close quarters without sanitation, hangs heavy in the air like a looming storm cloud. Then, the whispers start. In the desolate encampments, amongst the ruins, the desperate search for an explanation, for someone to blame, begins. The rumors swirl like the smoke itself. Nero started the fire. He wanted to rebuild Rome in his image, a grander city, a monument to himself. Or perhaps it was a conspiracy, a cult, some nefarious group. And then the focus narrows, sharpens, lands on a particular, often misunderstood and reviled sect. The Christians. They are new, they are different, they hold strange beliefs, and they are easy scapegoats. You hear the whispers, you see the suspicion in people's eyes, and a fresh wave of fear chills you. The fire may have burned out, but the fires of suspicion and hatred are just beginning to glow. This is the dark underbelly of human nature, a desperate need to find an enemy when faced with incomprehensible tragedy. And it foreshadows a new kind of suffering for many. But even amidst this despair and burgeoning paranoia, the incredible, stubborn resilience of the Roman people begins to assert itself. There is work to be done, a monumental task that seems impossible, yet must be undertaken. The sheer physical labor of clearing the rubble is staggering. Imagine no heavy machinery, no bulldozers, just thousands of hands, pickaxes and baskets. You see people, dazed and exhausted, begin to pick through the debris of their former lives, not necessarily to rebuild their own homes yet, but simply to clear paths, to make sense of the overwhelming chaos. It's a communal effort born of necessity, a slow, painful process of transforming a wasteland back into something resembling a city. Nero, for all his eventual infamy, implements some crucial urban planning reforms. The new Rome, he decrees, will not be the old tinderbox. Streets will be wider, buildings will be spaced further apart, fire breaks will be enforced, and lower stories will be built of fire-resistant stone. A constant water supply will be maintained, and householders will be required to keep firefighting equipment handy. These are sensible, pragmatic changes born from the bitter lessons learned in the flames. You might not like Nero, but you can't deny the logic behind these decrees. The city, in its rebuilding, will be safer, healthier, more resilient. You, too, become part of this colossal effort. Perhaps you join a work gang, clearing debris from what was once a major thoroughfare. The physical labor is exhausting, your hands blistered, your back aching. But there's a strange, almost meditative rhythm to it. Each shovelful of ash, each lifted stone, is a tiny act of defiance against the destruction, a small step towards reclaiming your world. You work alongside your neighbors, your shared trauma forging a new kind of community, a silent understanding of what you've all endured. You share what little food you have, offer a helping hand, a comforting word. The individual grief for lost possessions slowly morphs into a collective determination to rebuild, to resurrect. Months turn into years. The scars of the fire are deep, both on the landscape and in the collective memory. But slowly, painstakingly, brick by brick, stone by stone, a new Rome begins to rise from the ashes. It's a different Rome, one that reflects the lessons learned in the Inferno. It's a city of wider streets, of more spacious buildings, of new public spaces. It's a testament to human resilience, to the sheer stubborn will to survive and to thrive, even after the most devastating losses. Your own life, too, is slowly rebuilt. Perhaps you find work in the new construction. Perhaps you open a small stall in a new market. Your home might be smaller, simpler, but it's yours again, a sanctuary carved out of the devastation. The Great Fire of Rome wasn't just a historical event, it was a crucible that forged a new identity for the city and its people. It was a stark reminder of humanity's vulnerability in the face of nature's wrath, and a powerful testament to our incredible capacity for resilience, for community, for picking up the pieces and starting anew. You, my friend, lived through it. You felt the heat, breathed the smoke, witnessed the destruction, and participated in the arduous, hopeful process of rebuilding. You faced the dragon, survived its breath, and helped birth a phoenix from the ashes. It's a story not just of fire and devastation, but of the indomitable spirit of humanity, a spirit that continues to rebuild, to innovate, to survive, no matter how many times the world tries to burn it down. And that, my friends, is a story that still resonates, even 2 millennia later.